Hello everyone, and I hope you've had a great weekend. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a cause analysis. And as we go through a cause analysis, it's important to understand that this will happen right after you perform the gap analysis like we did last week. So we can see where the cause analysis is within the HPT model. You can see once again it's right after the gap analysis. You can see what all it entails as we go through this model. So as far as the standard definition of a cause analysis is the process of determining the root cause or causes of the past, while organizational, environmental, and gap analyses yield valuable information. A cause analysis determines why the performance gap exists, and I know even throughout the discussions and the comments I've made in your assignments, I talked to you about the importance of starting to think about the why behind what people are doing and understanding how that might affect some of the gaps that you've identified. So as you can see in this slide, it's important to understand that the cause analysis is the bridge between performance analysis and the appropriate intervention or interventions that will help eliminate the performance gaps. So we've identified already the gaps in the performance, and the cause analysis will definitely be the bridge that will help you figure out which interventions will help eliminate those gaps because you've understood the why behind these performance gaps. Now let's take a look at Gilbert's behavior engineering model, or BEM, and it's important to understand that this is a guide that will help you understand some of the causes for some of those performance gaps, or figuring out the why behind some of the performance that you've identified. And as you take a look at this, I'm not going to read all the bullet points, but it's important to know that the top three, the data, instruments, and incentives, those are all rooted in the environment. And the knowledge, capacity, and motives are all rooted within the individual. And as you look through the reading for this week, I thought it was interesting that within the book it said if you pit a good performer against a bad system, the system will win almost every time. So that's important to think about as you try to look for some of the why behind some of the performances that you've identified. It will also be critical to think about how those whys affect the unique mission, needs, wants, and desires of the organization. And when you understand that why and also the how, then you can really choose some of the appropriate interventions to help fill those gaps. Now, the next couple of slides, we're going to take a look at how the behavior engineering model can be adapted to a cause analysis. And I don't want to necessarily go through every single question here, as you can see them on the screen, but what we have here on the left are the performance drivers or causes, and then the questions that you can ask, and also some performance deficiency examples. So think about, as you take a look at the screen and some of the questions, think about the two different case studies that we're going through. More specifically within the discussion this week, think about the Angelica case study. Some questions: how well are people given data, information, and feedback to perform when they are needed? Okay, are there any deficiencies from the performance gaps that you have identified that can help answer this and help understand the why behind this? And as you think through this, one of the performance deficiency examples is performance standards are non-existent. And we all know that within the Angelica case, there's the backroom standards guide, but are there other areas where performance standards are not really communicated too well? And think through those, and again, that might help you think about the why that could possibly be going on that create some of these performance gaps. So even to take a look at the environment, support, and tools, we can see one of the performance deficiency examples is insufficient time to get job done. So even think about, once again, the inventory within the Angelica case study, some of the lower performing stores that the inventory sits in the back room for long periods of time, takes a long time to get some of that inventory, some of those products out on the floor. And thinking about, we have that performance deficiency example there, and asking yourself, how well are people supported with the resources, tools, equipment, etc. I think it's easy to jump into the point of saying, well, the high performing stores are not having any problems, let's just fix this right away. But taking a look at those lower performing stores and asking yourself, how well are some of these managers supported with some of the resources, some of the tools, some of the equipment that they have, again, can help you figure out that why. So moving on to the next slide, we have consequences, incentives, rewards, also skills and knowledge. So thinking about some of those consequences, incentives, and rewards, and some of the questions that you'll need to ask yourself: how well do performers see the results or consequences of what they do? So are those underperforming stores, is there anything happening to them because of what they're doing? Even those higher performing stores, anything that they're receiving as far as rewards or incentives for having a higher performing store. And thinking through these answers, again, will help you understand the why behind some of the performance. And you can even see some of the deficiencies that it may even reveal. So the work is unrelated to the organization mission and needs. So it's always important to take a look back at the mission of the organization and make sure everything aligns with that. And are people receiving rewards that are not necessarily performance based? Those can start, when you start seeing that, it can start showing some of those issues that might be causing some of these performance gaps. And thinking about poor performance rewarded, you can even take a look at an organization when sometimes they think the fact that you've just been there a certain amount of time, no matter what you're doing, you should still receive a raise. So even though somebody may be performing at a low level, they're still receiving some reward just by showing up to work and by being there, which doesn't necessarily mean that you've been successful at what you're doing. So the next part of this that you can see is the skills and knowledge, and thinking about how well do performers' knowledge and skills match performance requirements, and even thinking about some of the workers that are within that Angelica case study. Thinking about a lot of times some of the workers that they initially hire are part-time. This is their first job they've ever worked. They're really more in it for some of the discounts that they'll receive, and they like the clothing and things like that. Might some of those clues help you see some of these performance deficiencies, whether it's lack of knowledge, lack of skill, training, education, and things like that. So the final tool we'll take a look at within the behavior engineering model, first of all, individual capacity, and then also motivation and expectation. So individual capacity, thinking about the Angelica case study, how well can people perform, and some of the deficiency examples that you can see on the right side. Is there a lack of aptitude or just a natural ability to do something? Is there a lack of ability to do something, whether it's physical or manual dexterity? So thinking about, do the people even have the physical ability to do something? Okay, this doesn't deal with necessarily the Angelica case study. I know I've mentioned it before, but if somebody is not in the best physical condition, whether they may have some type of physical ability and they're asked to lift a certain amount of weight throughout the day and they don't have that physical ability to do it, well then obviously there's going to be a performance gap that will happen. So again, taking a look at that why is always important. Now we'll take a look at the motivation and expectation. It's really important to understand that not everybody is motivated the same way, and it's very easy to gravitate towards the motivations that we're motivated by personally. Some people are motivated by money. Some people are motivated by the fulfillment of their job. Some people might be motivated by an eventual promotion, but it's all different across the board. So some questions that you'll need to ask as you take a look at some of these gaps. Think about, how well are people motivated to perform? And are there a lot of different ways that people can be motivated? Are some of the expectations realistic? And then you can see some of these performance deficiencies that would go along with it. Boring and punishing performance systems, payoffs may be unrealistic. These are the performance drivers or causes, the performance questions, and also some deficiency examples that will hopefully help you as you go through not only the Angelica case study, but also the Pfeiffer case study as well. So now what I'll do is go over some of the techniques and tools that you can use to conduct a cause analysis. So on the left you can see the name of the tool, the right side you can see just a brief description of each tool or each way to conduct this cause analysis. So I won't go through every point, but I'll just touch on a few here. So first of all, an interview. Pretty obvious here. So a structured or unstructured. So structured interview would be you have your list of questions and you're going to ask those. Unstructured may be, you can ask additional questions based upon answers and so on. It could be open-ended, could be probing types of questions. So that's a way to conduct a cause analysis, or a tool to conduct a cause analysis. Another one, observation. You can see that it captures some of the current skills and knowledge. You can also get an understanding of the context that everything's going on. And the issue with this is that it just takes time to effectively use, but it could be very helpful as well. Next one, surveys or questionnaires. It's important to understand with surveys and questionnaires to make them anonymous. People can be very honest to help you really get that understanding of what actually is going on and help you identify the why behind it. A benefit to this, you can send out a large number of people can be surveyed. Even a tool such as Google Forms is really helpful because you can send it out electronically and get the data all sorted the way that you would like, and that would be very user friendly to be able to interpret and so on. You can also use focus groups. So we can see, the importance of this, that if you're doing this, participants, must be briefed and debriefed about what's going on. Also the role of the facilitator and, the scribe are just very crucial whenever you're going through a focus group. Root cause analysis. Basically what this can do is this can trace the causes and effects of accidents or other problems that are past oriented, and this just really helps you understand the relationship of one event to another, helps that become very clear. You can also have participants being questioned just to pinpoint what they think may be some of the root causes of the problem. Another tool is the fishbone diagram, just a cause and effect diagram used in total quality management. It really helps with troubleshooting, and you can really trace to people, policies, procedures, equipment, climate to maybe understand the why behind some of those performance gaps. And finally, you can see the portfolio analysis, and this is just a financial management tool, and the focus with this is just on positive performance gaps. So I didn't talk about this too much throughout the video, but even looking at those positive performance gaps that are really even exceeding some of the expectations could be helpful. You could identify this within a portfolio analysis, and as you can see within the brief description, that it's also great for stakeholder involvement as well. Now let's take a look at the discussion assignment for this week. What you're going to be doing is conducting a cause analysis based upon the performance gaps that you identified last week. Okay, so you can even see within the example, same exact description of the gap in one sentence, desired state and current state. Even the importance of the gap is right here. The area that you'll be filling out is you're going to be describing and categorizing the cause of the performance gap. So there's a section within the directions that says it is important to base your reasoning of the cause on as much evidence from the scenario as you can. So just avoid speculation, but use logical assumptions from the case where needed. Back up your explanations and some evidence and logical reasoning. And you must do all you can to get the actual reasons or causes for the performance patterns or gaps that you've identified. And also remember that you will need to explain this to your client and must have sound arguments to support your thinking. Otherwise, you'll be less likely to convince your client even if your thinking is accurate. So always going back to the case study, going back to the information, even using data to back up some of these conclusions can be very helpful. So that will be your discussion assignment for this week. So let's take a look at the cause analysis assignment for the Pfeiffer case study. And you'll see the very top, it'll say copy and paste the gap information from your gap analysis to this document. So you want to take a look at all the different gaps that you identified in last week's assignment. Just copy and paste all those different parts, all the 4 different gaps, And then your assignment for this week is you need to describe and categorize the cause. And you can take even a look at that worked example within the Angelica case study, within the discussions that you see. It can give you a good example of what this should even look like. So that concludes our video for this week. If you have any questions or concerns about anything, feel free to reach out and contact me. And I hope you have a great week.